Boop, beep, boop. Alright, hey guys. I briefly brought up user coins in my video about the NCS gauntlets, and I figured I might as well go through with making a video about them as mentioned. After all, I'm not one to leave my beautiful adoring fans hanging, you know? Interestingly, Geometry Dash actually didn't start out with coins of any kind, silver or gold. If you look at Droptop's completion of Stereo Madness, you can see how that level looked before coins were introduced. Gold coins were already a thing by the time I started playing, so it definitely feels a little off to me, like a false memory or something. It's a little cursed. I'd be happy to talk about the main level coins in this video, but Colin already made a video discussing them, and my takes don't really deviate from his that much. I'd be reiterating a lot of the same points he makes, so I'll just point you to that video instead. I will quickly summarize his design philosophy here, because I do think it's a good foundation to build off of for the rest of this video. I have taken the liberty to make a few minor modifications though, to suit my own tastes. Firstly, when you place a coin, it needs to provide a little extra challenge for the player. And ideally, the way you collect the coin shouldn't be immediately obvious. Preferably not because it's hidden behind some random wall, but because it uses the game's mechanics in an unconventional and creative way. Figuring out how to collect the coin and then executing that route should be a little tricky, so it feels like a proper reward for your efforts. Giving coins away for free feels lame. Secondly, the way you place your coin should be a little enticing to the player. It needs to tease you a little bit, daring you to go for it. And finally, Colin talks about feeling the rush of excitement you get when collecting a coin. But unless I'm misinterpreting something here, that's basically the first point again, but worded differently. I do have a few major disagreements with some of his specific rankings, but I already made a video about that too, so I don't really have anything else to add on that point. No, this video is going to be about user coins specifically. The silver ones.
You must find
3
from each level and win.
Because Geometry Dash is such an open-ended creative outlet, there is a ton of potential design space for user coins. Space that the main levels can't really explore because they tend to be more standardized and thus more limited in scope. This opens up the possibility to implement truly mind-blowing coins, but it also opens up a lot of pitfalls creators are liable to fall into. Not every coin is a winner in this game. In fact, most of them aren't. Like, you'd be surprised by how many free coins there are. I would never do this, of course. Okay, you got me. Guilty as charged. The coin in removed submission is free. Well, if you can manage to beat the level to begin with, I guess. I feel compelled to bring it up because I know the comments would do so otherwise. And, you know, fair point. Let me defend myself a little bit though before you cast your judgment. If you're unaware, the coin in removed submission shows up all across the level in various different spots that all suggest that you might be able to collect it there. It was inspired by the coin in Conchetumare X, and it's basically intended to be a visual gag and a red herring for coin collectors, baiting the player into wasting time to figure out how to collect it. You actually can collect it in some places, like in the wave part, but then you won't be able to return to the main path. You'll just die. I'll be honest, I had a hard time deciding how to actually implement this coin in the end, but I decided to give it away for free to add a little insult to injury to any players who really went out of their way to try and figure out how to collect the fake ones. So I guess it's a troll coin. It's being enticing on purpose to bait the player into wasting their time until they realize they're being taken for a fool, and then it rewards them for not even trying at all. While I personally do still have kind of mixed feelings about this coin, I do think it's a valid and interesting way to implement a coin that you wouldn't really see in a main level because it uses player expectations about coins in a subversive way. This is also why watching a video of removed submission before playing it is cheating. I do think it's especially important to tease the player a little with your coins. I would argue even more so than with gold coins, because user coins are so abundant and disposable. Gold coins are very limited in supply, and that makes them valuable. Having the maximum amount of gold coins is a difficult yet feasible achievement and a badge of honor on your profile. And since the official levels are at the very core of Geometry Dash, getting the coins in these levels just feels more important to me. That's why if I'm playing an online level and I never even see any coins, they may as well not exist for all intents and purposes. If there's no indication of a coin anywhere, there's no incentive for me to go for it, and I'll just not bother. After all, user coins are very much an optional thing, and since user coins can be quite the crapshoot, I don't really feel any sort of obligation to collect them if I don't want to. You have to make me want it, you know? And I think this is why I tend to disagree a lot with Viprin's coin ratings, because he doesn't seem to take this into account at all. As far as I can tell, what he values in coin placements is originality, which is fair, and elaborateness. To him, collecting the coins in a level is a foregone conclusion, and I think that is a blind spot in his method of analysis. For example, when the Inferno Gauntlet dropped, I played through the levels, the last of which is in Silico. Raver's coins are well liked in this community, and Viprin writes glowing reviews about them in his video description. But playing through in Silico myself, I never once got the urge to even look for them. Past the level select screen, there isn't a single indication of any coins anywhere. They are completely hidden behind an elaborate and obtuse Easter egg hunt, so I never felt compelled to look for them. In fact, because Geometry Dash is a rhythm-based platformer, I actually think it's very poorly suited to Easter egg hunt type collectibles. It's not like you can take a moment to stop and thoroughly look around like you might in Celeste, or your standard 2D Mario game, which also have their own hidden collectibles to find. You could purposely die over and over, but the point is that the game actively resists your efforts to stop and search, which just doesn't feel that great. Imagine going on an actual Easter egg hunt in your backyard with rocket boots you can't turn off. Viprin tends to give coins higher ratings if they're more elaborate, but I tend to feel the opposite. Easter egg hunts don't suit the gameplay style of Geometry Dash, so the more elaborate and hidden a coin is, the less inclined I am to go for it. That doesn't mean you can't get creative with it though. I brought up the coin in Next Cab Soon in my recent video about the NCS gauntlets, and I think that's a good example of this. I have mixed feelings about this one because while I do like it in concept, it's just another one of those coins I would never feel incentivized to go for. If you aren't aware, in order to get this coin, you have to do a huge Easter egg hunt to put together a phone number for the girl to call. And then, after the level ends, a cutscene will play of her getting far on Cataclysm before she's picked up by the taxi she called. That leaves behind the coin for you to collect on your next playthrough of the level. That part is honestly really cool. There's a fun meta element to watching this cutscene, seeing her leave, and the next time you come around, she'll actually be gone and you'll be rewarded with a coin. It's a creative bit of storytelling and adds a lot of flavor to this level. The part I take issue with is obviously the Easter egg hunt itself, because the collectibles you need to get can be extremely obtuse and there's a whopping 11 of them. As I already said, it's just not suited to the gameplay style of Geometry Dash to stop and search for them. Another thing though, and maybe this is a nitpick on my part, but it doesn't really make sense to me what all of these disparate collectible MacGuffins have to do with the taxi at the end. Where's the flavor there, you know? If it were up to me, I would have just dropped the whole Easter egg hunt altogether and let the cutscene play out regardless. However, you don't actually have to watch the cutscene at all. It's enough to trigger it and restart the level, and the coin will still be there. At first, I thought that this is because of some kind of limitation with the editor, but GeoGamer later confirmed for me that this was actually a deliberate choice. I don't know, I guess I can't imagine the taxi picking her up off screen, but I don't really like this choice. I feel it kind of undermines the whole narrative of this cutscene at the end. It kind of takes out the magic, you know? If you're able to create a level that sticks with people after they play it, that leaves a lasting impression with them and really gets them invested in it, that's also a good way of incentivizing them to collect the coins. Granted, it's not a very reliable way, but I just wanted to mention it so I could bring up Serpent's Wrath. It's a shame because I feel like the coins in this level are such a wasted opportunity. The first one is probably the most well-known. It basically turns the entire level into an extreme demon, which is just a little ridiculous for my tastes. Like, I love this level, but this far exceeds the level of challenge I'm willing to bear just to get a coin. I only have one extreme demon under my name to begin with, you know? Like, you might as well just build a completely separate level if you're going to raise the difficulty by this much. The other two coins are another Easter egg hunt and some kind of puzzle, which I'm sure you can guess by now don't fit the gameplay style of Geometry Dash, if you ask me. However, that doesn't mean I dislike everything about them. In fact, one aspect I really like about the Easter egg hunt coin is that it disables the highlight highlights of the attacks for the first boss. The boss itself telegraphs its attacks, so this adds a nice extra challenge in your ability to think quickly. Get rid of the Easter egg hunt entirely and just present this coin out in the open for the people who dare try this challenge, and I think it would be perfect. Something else I noticed while playing this level for myself is that there is a very obvious coin placement that's just not being taken advantage of. You see, this level has two final bosses, the Green Serpent and the Ghost Serpent. The Ghost boss is definitely harder, but what boss you actually get is randomized. I really love the concept of these boss fights to the point that I actually wanted to get a completion of the level with both bosses. Now, I don't know if the odds are weighted or anything, but I had a lot of trouble getting the Ghost boss to spawn. The few times it did show up, I just ended up dying because it is extra difficult after all. I think this is the perfect place to put a coin. Instead of the bosses being random, just put a coin at the beginning that locks in the more difficult Ghost Serpent. That way, you give the player some agency on which boss they want to fight while rewarding them for taking the more difficult path, instead of leaving it up to chance. All the coins discussed so far are pretty elaborate, but I don't think there's anything wrong with following RobTop's example and keeping things relatively simple. There's a certain elegance in simplicity after all. If you can pull it off anyway. Coins that require a little gameplay knowledge or some clever movement or just offer a little extra challenge are still plenty satisfying to collect. The coins in Acropolis fill this role, I think, especially the first two. They fit this level really well because they complement the level's claustrophobic gameplay brilliantly. The first one dares you to hit this pink orb as late as possible so you can barely get up the ledge, and the second demands you swerve up as early as you can in the ship without bumping the ceiling. At a glance, their placement looks really innocuous, like they're just laying around for anyone to grab. But the methods to collect these coins are deceptively devious. There's even no guarantee you'll actually collect them even if you do decide to go for them. More subtle, cleverly implemented coins like this tend to fly under the radar in this community though. In that same vein, I quickly want to bring up the final coin in Dem Travel, because it really perfects that tease factor we discussed earlier. Passing by this coin just feels uniquely terrible. For a couple of reasons. For one, there's no gameplay past this point to distract you from your decision to skip the coin. It's a brutal walk of shame that plainly highlights your cowardice. Secondly, the coin comes into view first, before the triple spikes, which just makes it that much more tantalizing to go for. At the same time, this is at the very end of a 6-minute level, and triple spikes as the robot are just awkward enough that you're not guaranteed to pass them, so it's a high stakes decision. After playing the level, this coin just stuck with me. I think it's very well done despite how unassuming it really looks. The final thing I want to bring up for this video is that with the advent of 2.2, it has become possible to interrupt.
Well done! Now try my new challenge. Collect all the silver coins from the snow world. Collect
3.
each level and win.
Interrupt the level with a little disconnected challenge. Notable examples include Limeade and Get Happier, and this is something you have to be really fucking careful with, I think, because interrupting
Collect all the silver coins from my world. Find
3.
each level and win. Then return to me.
Interrupting the flow of your level is incredibly jarring and off-putting. You're interrupting the song, you're interrupting the gameplay, you're completely stopping the forward motion of the level, and that interruption
Collect all the silver coins from my world. Find
3.
from each level and win.
Interruption tears straight through the heart of Geometry Dash. This is an incredibly self-destructive thing to do, so if you can avoid it, I think you should. Limeade doesn't get away with it, I don't think. It's meant to be funny more than anything, and while that doesn't clash with the lighthearted tone of the level, it does straight up ruin the mood and pacing. It kills the flow of the level for the sake of a silly joke, and I don't think that's a worthwhile exchange. On the other hand, I think Get Happier actually does get away with it, surprisingly. The reason for this is because, while it does violently break the flow of the level, that's actually not exactly an inappropriate thing for this level to do, given its theming. Get Happier is kind of an oddball level in this regard, because out of every 2.2 level I've seen so far, I would say that this is the only one to use sound effects in a way that is defensible. Sound effects in Geometry Dash are not immersive, quite the opposite, but that's a can of worms for another day. Anyway, let me stress again that Get Happier is an outlier and should not be taken as a template for how to design your coin placements. Stopping the flow of your level for a coin can easily be a catastrophic decision and should not be taken lightly. And I think that sums up my general philosophy about user coins. Let me know what you think in the comments, and let me know if I missed any good coins. Special shoutouts to my grandpa demons on Patreon, Belfry Clock, Crone44, Bafer, and Sir Lethbridge Stewart. Thank you very much for your support, and thanks for watching, everybody. See you later.